The U.S. Postal Service lost track of something more than mail. They did not know who was driving their mail, and now argue they should not be held liable for a deadly crash. A new boss is taking over some troubled apartment complexes in Aurora, the same apartment complexes that have led to a campaign stop for former President Trump. Before Xcel Energy turns off the power on purpose again, state regulators want Xcel to test its reverse notification system. And remembering a 9 News producer and college instructor that meant so much to so many, including me, we'll pay tribute to Lee Hood next. Not every mail delivery vehicle looks like the one that shows up at your mailbox. There are thousands of trucks contracted by the U.S. Postal Service to carry mail. And not even the Postal Service knows who is driving for them or if the trucks are safe enough to be on the road. 9 News investigates why the Postal Service believes a deadly crash involving a truck carrying mail is not their fault. Here's Mark Salinger.
We know the truck involved in this deadly crash back in June of 2022 was carrying mail for the United States Postal Service. Yet there's a lot the Postal Service says it didn't know.
It's a broken system.
It didn't know the driver didn't have a valid license. It didn't know the truck wasn't covered by insurance. The Postal Service didn't even know the company hauling its mail even existed. And yet, it was still allowed to work for the federal government.
It was a cascade of failures that led to this 5 seconds that took 5 lives.
Attorneys representing the Postal Service filed a motion to dismiss a federal lawsuit filed by the family of the 5 people who were killed by the truck. Grant Lawson represents the remaining members of the Godinez family.
When you have people that shouldn't even be driving and trucks that are unsafe and aren't even insured, it's causing absolute horror.
The filing gives us a rare look at how little the Postal Service knows before a truck picks up a load of mail. USPS contracted with a trucking company named Caminante. Caminante subcontracted the job to a company named Lucky 22. That's illegal. Yet the Postal Service still loaded up the truck with mail. The Lucky 22 truck drove up I-25 with faulty brakes, a driver with no license, expired insurance, and then he killed 5 people. The Postal Service says that's not their fault.
There is no question that had the U.S. Postal Service followed its own rules, that this truck would have never been allowed to enter the facility, let alone be loaded with mail and allowed to drive down the road.
So the argument from the Postal Service here is that the contractor should be responsible for maintaining the trucks and ensuring that the drivers are fit to be behind the wheel. The Postal Service is claiming government immunity, which shields them from any liability. It's a reminder that you really don't know who's driving behind you when you're going up I-25 or really any road.
285, I-7, you've been covering this so much.
There's far too many truck crashes.
Postal Service, the company, what about the driver?
Yes, so the driver was found criminally guilty of vehicular homicide. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison in Weld County. But again, it goes back to, were there any other people who were also liable? The company, did they put a bad truck on the road? Can anybody else be held liable? That's what this case is trying to figure out.
When you were in college, did you think you'd become an expert in trucks and
you never
licenses?
know what you're going to be an expert in this industry.
It's good that you've become an expert in this. Thank you, Mark.
Unfortunately.
A troubled Aurora apartment complex that has led former President Trump to hold a rally in Aurora on Friday is under new control and may not be shut down by the city. A court-appointed caretaker is now in charge of several buildings after a bank says the out-of-state landlords have defaulted on millions in loans. Earlier this month, the city of Aurora threatened legal action against CBZ Management, which owns several Aurora properties. The city cited increased criminal activity, a history of code violations, and a lack of on-site property managers. CBZ claims it was forced to abandon their properties after the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua took over. New court filings allege CBZ used their apartments as collateral for millions of dollars in loans, which are now in default. As a result, 2 of those apartment complexes have been placed in a receivership. That means a third party will take over the properties and help the bank recover the loan money. An Aurora spokesperson says it is a, quote, welcome development, so much so the city is backing off its threat to shut down CBZ properties. One of those properties, the Edge of Lowry, is the site of a now viral video of armed men breaking into an apartment. City leaders say Tren de Aragua's presence in Aurora is small, but that CBZ's properties were significantly impacted by gang activity. Trump has exaggerated those claims in recent weeks, saying that Aurora has become, quote, a war zone. Trump will be here on Friday in Aurora, but at a luxury hotel miles away from any of those properties. A hefty fine is on hold for a conservative podcaster from Douglas County. This week, Joe Altman was supposed to either turn over proof that voting machines were rigged against Trump in 2020 or face possible arrest. He has appealed, and the fine is now on hold. Altman claims Denver-based Dominion Voting Systems worked with Antifa to rig the 2020 election against Donald Trump, a claim without evidence echoed directly by Trump himself. Altman and his conservative allies now face defamation lawsuits from a former Dominion executive, and Altman has been ordered to pay a $1,000 a day fine until he provides proof of that claim. He was supposed to be in court this week to provide his proof and pay up or face more sanctions. Altman's attorneys argue he's a journalist protecting his sources, and they've appealed in federal court. The daily fine is now on pause. In the meantime, Altman is crowdfunding to cover his legal expenses. Xcel has not purposefully shut off your power in 6 months, but the Public Utilities Commission is still talking about it. Today, the PUC made some final recommendations that it wants to see from Xcel before the next public safety power shutoff, a PSPS. Xcel did one of those in April during a hot and windy day to avoid having any of its power lines contribute to a wildfire. The key messages from the PUC are to have Xcel hold additional work sessions with county emergency responders to coordinate power shutoffs. Emergency managers felt out of the loop in April, and Xcel has already started some of those work sessions. The PUC is also asking for improved customer communication about power shutoffs, including advance notice on timing and providing some online maps. The PUC also wants Xcel to communicate early with customers who depend on medical devices and then test that communication now.
Our recommendation is that prior to November 30th of this year, the company conduct one test message to all these qualified medical customers using the same communication method, whether that be a text or email, that they would plan to use during a PSPS event.
The PUC also wants Xcel to create and share a list of critical care customers like hospitals and sewage treatment plants so those customers can have advance notice of outages. In April, we told you about the near miss in Boulder when the wastewater plant had no power and nearly spilled sewage into Boulder Creek. There is a nonprofit in Denver offering end-of-life care for some of the most vulnerable members of society. Their motto is simple: no one should die alone. Here's Kyle with more on this week's Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign.
Thank you for being with Next while I'm away today. If a friend or family member has ever received hospice care, then you know what a blessing that end-of-life care can be in such a difficult situation. This week's Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign supports Rocky Mountain Refuge. That nonprofit is a first of its kind in Colorado, offering hospice care for the homeless. They rent rooms from Denver Rescue Mission, and it's there that their trained medical personnel not only provide that care, but also compassion for folks who otherwise might be living out their last days and weeks on the street somewhere or in a hospital bed. That too shows you the value of Rocky Mountain Refuge, because they're able to take some of the strain off of the public health system that is not equipped to provide that hospice care, and also they can do it at a fraction of the cost of the hospital setting, and they can do it with a type of warmth and love that is not seen elsewhere. To join me in supporting their work, scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. Your $13 million in microgiving has proven the value of $5 donations, so as always, I will match the first 50 folks to contribute $5. Or you can join the more than 3,000 who have signed up to give monthly to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your information once, we divide it amongst all the nonprofits we feature, and that has allowed us to start each recent weekly microgiving campaign with more than $23,000 in donations. Thank you so much.
As residents evacuate Florida as Hurricane Milton arrives, Coloradans head to that danger. Did you know Denver has siblings? 10 of them! Some local artists are helping share the family's history. Next. Welcome to Aurora, Colorado's third largest city, an all-America city standing 5,471 feet. But Aurora, the reviews are in, and they are not 5 stars like your logo suggests. D. Trump from Florida calls Aurora a war zone, which is why his next trip to Colorado will be in Aurora, at a resort where you can dive into family-friendly excitement, miles away from Aurora. where the water slides are closed for the season. It's a good thing there's always Aurora, where you can stay and play, an alpine escape at an ideal destination, far away from Aurora, A-Town. Thank goodness for Aurora, where you can host an event and bash your host at the same time. Brought to you by Aurora natives who happen to work on Next. More help from Colorado is on the way to Florida as Hurricane Milton makes landfall tonight. The hurricane is expected to make landfall near Tampa on Florida's west coast. More than 70 members of Colorado Task Force 1 will help with recovery efforts. They went to Fort Blanding near Jacksonville to meet up with other task force crews who have been there since Hurricane Helene. They'll wait until the storm passes, then go to areas that need help. The Red Cross is also sending nearly 50 volunteers from Colorado and Wyoming. During natural disasters, news outlets become first responders. We're streaming live coverage from our sister station in Tampa, and you can watch that throughout the night on 9 News Plus and our free 9 News app. Kathy, this is the kind of thing you probably become addicted to watching, like breaking news from a news standpoint, breaking weather. This is probably something you're glued to.
And we have friends and family. We know this area so well, as do a lot of Coloradans that have other homes or just, family members that live in this part of the state. So Milton downsized from a Category 5 to a 3, making landfall as we speak. The northern eye wall moving into Tampa with an extreme wind warning posted for winds to 120 miles per hour. Sarasota just recorded a gust to 114. We're nervous about the storm surge coming in on the southern edge of this. It looks like landfall is going to happen between Sarasota and Venice. That's what I'm hearing from friends evacuated with their animals in a hotel right now. There's no power. People are told to shelter in place. So the southern edge is where the surge will be the most dangerous, 12 to 15 feet in some cases. And so while right now you're seeing Sarasota and Venice in the eye wall, the center, it's what's coming around over the next 6 hours. That is very, very concerning. And of course, it's dark. So this Category 3 storm is making landfall. It's going to create extensive inland flooding, saying as a Category 1 storm and then crossing back over into the Atlantic. This is going to become a big story for the eastern shores of Florida as it moves through there tomorrow morning. So an ongoing big weather story tonight. Our weather story includes a few clouds out there, maybe a few sprinkles if you're lucky. Temperature of 81 today. We're down to 76 this hour, but running way above average. And the smoke and haze is still a part of our forecast, but lifting to the east as that is where the air quality alert remains in effect. Sorry, Sterling, Lyman, and Burlington. You're stuck with the thick, nasty air for a little longer. And gusty winds picking up over Loveland Pass and up over the Aspen area, a little bit lighter here in Denver. Weather headlines include the areas of smoke, elevated fire danger, but we've got some changes coming in by the weekend. That's right, while there's not much moisture coming in now, a trough off to the west will bring temperatures down Sunday and Monday. A nice mild evening and start to your day tomorrow. We've got a forecast high tomorrow of 84, the record's 89. A cooler Friday, a warmer Saturday, great football weather for the game on Sunday, and then highs in the 60s and 70s, Marshall, finally fall on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
So that's the thing, is they can all come here and we can be that one hub that can connect all the cities.
Denver has 10 sister cities. 2 local artists are highlighting the big happy family with a new project. And a brewery has a new way to shed your beer belly with a special boot camp. Next. Some art exhibits hang on walls in fancy galleries begging for your attention. This week, a pair of artists unveiled their new street art installation honoring Denver's global connections.
People are kind of desensitized to signs. They know that they're supposed to tell them what to do. Sometimes there is a little bit more going on in those, and sometimes you can sneak a couple things in. We are setting up a one-day public art installation for the Denver Sister Cities.
We kind of brought the idea of creating a sign with the sister cities.
Does it matter if this one's slightly, well, no, I guess it's right?
Should be pretty close.
Yeah, no, you're right. I was able to learn more about all 10 different sister cities and then create street signs that look like Denver street signs and then put them all together on like a tree type of post. All right, that one goes in now.
There's cultural exchange between the cities. I went to Brest, France. There's also bands food exchanges, music. It's just a cultural exchange, basically. Feels good. There's so many diverse cities across the world, and it feels like we're so separated. When you meet with different artists in different cities, you realize that that divide really isn't there, and you realize how similar you are, similar interests, thoughts.
Right about here?
Yep.
Okay.
Just the ways you approach life and the way you want to be treated, and they're very, very much the same.
Signs can be easily manipulated to convey different messages. That's so dope. I think sometimes doing it subtly, you can add more to the sign itself, like to tell a story or create a narrative, as opposed to just a wayfinding device.
Oh, it's amazing.
It looks like the real street signs because they are, but it also celebrates, the sister cities. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think I'm going to pitch a story that takes me to one of those sister cities. The station's got to pay for that, right? The sign installation was up for only a few hours earlier this week, but keep an eye out. It will find a permanent home later this year. A bunch of craft beer enthusiasts pouring their energy into a good cause is the most Colorado thing we saw today. Beer lovers teamed up for Brewery Boot Camp, an hour-long CrossFit-style workout using brewery equipment instead of gym gear. Why is brewery so hard to say? The boot camp was a fundraising event for Drink for Pink, a nonprofit raising money for local breast cancer research. You can drink responsibly and save lives. See something that feels like Colorado to you? Email it to next@9news.com or text us 303-871-1491. A special tribute coming up after the break.
You know, we talk often about the lives of folks living on the streets in Denver and in the surrounding metro area. The truth is, those lives, like each of ours, will someday come to an end. And that is why Rocky Mountain Refuge has started Colorado's first nonprofit homeless hospice program. They care for folks in their final days and weeks so that they're not on the streets, they're not in a hospital, they're in a comfortable and loving environment filled with dignity and respect. To join me in giving to support Rocky Mountain Refuge's work, scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. As always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. Thanks for being with Next while I'm away.
My feedback tonight is a somber goodbye to a 9 News alum and mentor in my career in journalism. Lee Hood was a producer behind the scenes in the 80s and 90s. She's right there in the center of the station photo from 1988 with the blonde hair and the white jacket. She worked here at 9 News, at Denver 7, Channel 2, and CBS 4. After an 18-year career in TV news, she taught students like me. She was one of my instructors at the University of Colorado. She was most recently a professor at Loyola University in Chicago. Lee visited us in June for the retirement of our news director, and she's remembered today by us, her husband Bill, and daughter Becca. She was just 64. Feedback tonight from Aurora, but about the Sister Cities program. Yuli tells me there are several sister cities in Aurora. If I'm looking at this correctly, there's one in Ethiopia, El Salvador, Mexico, South Korea, and Taiwan. Who's got more than Denver's 10? Let's hear your feedback, and we'll see you next time.